Hey, good morning. How are you all doing? Welcome to Dreamforce this morning. My name is Lindsay Simon. I'm an engineering manager at Quip. I work on the Quip Live Apps platform and the Quip automation platform. And today I'm here to talk to you about developing Quip Live Apps with Lightning Design and Einstein. Well, okay. The forward-looking statement of Salesforce is that some of the things, in particular, the Einstein Live app that I'm going to show you today, aren't yet GA'd, but they're coming and should be available in January. Quip. So let's start with that. How many of you use Quip out there? Okay, and have you all heard of Quip? Okay, some of you. So that makes sense. I should tell you a little bit about Quip. Quip started with an observation from the founders, Kevin and Brett, that work today was happening with email attachments. Email where people send a version of a file to someone else. That person goes, oh, I want to change it. So they make a new version of the file. They send back a reply over email. The third person on who got CC'd says, oh, I want to make an addition. So they make another version of the file, and now they're sending it back and forth. Sooner, before you know it, you've got 10 people, 3 questions over 10 emails, and no idea how to get anything done. At the end of the day, you're trying to solve problems and make decisions and take action, and you can end up without an ability to take action, people on the wrong versions of files, and ultimately what you end up with is frustrated people. And that's really important because work has changed, the workplace has changed, people's expectations have changed. Quip shows up and says, hey, we're going to give you one interface with a canvas. Onto that canvas, you can put anything. You can put calendars, you can put connections to data outside of Quip, you can put nice visualizations that make sense to people that are familiar, and more importantly, you put chat. So now there's one version of a file, the version on the canvas. You have chat embedded so that you can have a conversation that has context. This also works seamlessly on your mobile device. You all are here, some of you have laptops, but all of you probably have a phone, and that's really important because similarly, SMS is a pretty crappy way to do pure work. You need context. So Quip gives you the app on the phone that gives you all of this. So why is this important? So you think about Quip. Quip is actually a collaboration platform. It's more than just the app on your phone or the app on your desktop. That's what users see. But it's docs, spreadsheets, slides, chat, and live apps, which is what I'm going to talk to you today more about, on top of a platform. That platform goes to the employees in the form of a mobile app, a desktop app, or the web app. But that sits on top of some really important considerations. If you all have IT teams that you work with, you know that they care about security, they care about control, and they care about the ability to control provisioning for users. Quip gives you the best of breed consumer technology with the IT and security constraints and controls that your company demands. All of this sits on top of a layer of APIs. One of these is the Live Apps API that I'll talk about today, but we also have an automation API, and we use the Salesforce APIs as well. This sits on top of another layer which is really the platform, a multi-tenant architecture living in the cloud that also offers a private cloud solution for customers that care about that level of segregation. So that's Quip. I hope you get a sense of what Quip is for and why you might want to use Quip. But next, I'm going to talk about live apps. That's really what I'm here to talk about. And so how many of you know what live apps are in Quip? Okay, cool. It's really a platform, and that's what I want to get at. So in your company, you probably have data that isn't something like just on Slack, but you want to integrate it into your experience on Quip. Or do any of you use Slack and you have Slack bots set up? Live apps are very much like Slack bots. They're integrations with other providers. Also very akin to Chrome extensions, if you're familiar with that platform. But here, I'm going to give you a demo of the Einstein Live app to give you a sense of what a live app can do. So Quip doesn't natively integrate with Einstein, but it can integrate with Einstein through a live app. And that's what this will show you. So here in a document canvas, we're going to insert the Einstein Analytics Live app just by typing @EIN. Here we insert it. Now, this is important. This part checks my credentials against my Salesforce org. And now that it sees that I do use Einstein and I have access to Einstein dashboards, this is that list. This uses a fetching API. Ultimately, you choose a dashboard. It sets that dashboard ID. And now you have an interactive dashboard in front of all of your users. Normally, this dashboard lives in Analytics Studio. My guess is that most of you that set up Analytics Studio aren't the end users that you care about seeing the dashboard. You might care about your executives seeing it. And now they can see it in a slide or in a document or anywhere where they're at. And that's really important because Quip wants to take your data and put it in front of all of your company and give them all access and see it where it's relevant. In other words, where there's context. So here at Dreamforce, we're also announcing new live apps available in the App Exchange. These are, Quip uses the App Exchange to deploy all of our live apps. That's because we really care about several aspects of the App Exchange to deploy to our users. How many of you are familiar with the App Exchange? All of you, because you all use Salesforce. So we want to put our apps in the right place for you. You can see we've worked with some partners. They've developed and own the code for these live apps, but it runs through the App Exchange, and that gives you some important qualities there, like security, among other things. But here, I'm going to show you the latest from the App Exchange. Do any of your companies use Box right now for storage? Okay, some of you for sure. Box is a very secure backend for a lot of file storage. And so what we were finding is our customers were saying, wow, everyone in our company uses Quip. Some of us put content into Box, the creators, but all of us are consumers. We want to put that content available where everyone is in Quip so that we can comment and talk about it. So the Box team went back and built a live app that integrates directly into Quip. Similarly, Dropbox, are any of you using Dropbox? Right, it's really common for file storage. So the Dropbox team, when we talked to them, they're like, well, we all want to build this. So they built a live app this year, and now it's available in the App Exchange for you to install for your users. Oop. Whoa, the clicker is wild today. Sorry, guys. So why do we use the App Exchange? This is probably obvious, but Quip is something of a subsidiary within Salesforce, but we want to integrate more and more, and we know that you admins trust the App Exchange for utility. The apps there are all relevant. They'll be useful to your users. You care about security. The App Exchange does security review of all the code for all these apps before you install them, and simplicity. The installation process is just a click. You click on the App Exchange, you click Get It Now here. This takes you to Quip to do the installation for your organization, where you're an administrator. You click Install, and then Quip makes your app available to your customers. It also can show you here where any data goes. Because live apps can talk to third-party data sources, it's important that you understand, oh, this app talks to Salesforce. That's obvious here. It also talks to Amazon, which is another place for content to live. So you probably trust these services. And now you install the live app, and here you see it. It's available for your users. They get a notification that there's a new live app available, and now they know how to use it. They just type @TaskRay, and they can insert the TaskRay live app now. So that's live apps and how to install them. But what I'm really here to talk about is more developer stuff, because this is the developer theater. And I want to talk about developing live apps and building them. In particular, I want to talk about why we've built the platform. So the platform exists because you probably have systems in your company that no third party knows better than you. Maybe an inventory system. If you imagine you're Boeing and you have an inventory system of parts and you want to display them in Quip, that would have otherwise been really impossible unless Quip built an integration with your system. But now, because of the Live Apps platform, we've built a really easy way for your developers or any developer to build an integration that talks to another service. So Quip can't solve all your problems, but between Quip and you and our platform, we think you can. So as you get into it, inevitably, once you start building an app, you're going to need a user interface. And sometimes this is where companies that want to develop an integration quickly might fall down. Fortunately, Salesforce has a great UI component system, the Lightning Design System. Are you all familiar with the Lightning Design System already? It is the UI components that power Salesforce. So if you're familiar with what you see as, combo boxes and inputs in Salesforce, you can use these as you develop your own app. And why would you want to do that? First off, this gives your interface consistency. It'll be familiar to all your users. Your users all use Salesforce. They'll recognize this and trust it. Also, usability. Salesforce has spent a lot of time working on usability and accessibility so that these apps are best of breed right out of the box. In live apps, we use React, and conveniently, Salesforce has a developer that has taken all of the Lightning design system and ported it into React. You don't have to use React in your live apps, but it makes it really easy and quick to get going. So you can see here, this is the Salesforce Lightning design system example that we've published in our Quip apps repository on GitHub. This is running in Quip. On the side here, you see a demo of all of the components in the Lightning design system running in a live app. That gives you the accordion, an alert, cards, data tables, basically all the building blocks you'd need to build a live app without having to write these user interface components. And that's powerful. So I want to show you the code for what this looks like because it's not actually very daunting at all. You start by installing the modules you need from Salesforce itself. First, the design system, which gives you a lot of the CSS, the iconography, a lot of the consistency bits for Salesforce. Then you install Design System React. Design System React gives you all the components written in React. So here, within a Quip live app, you need to modify the Webpack config. Webpack is a JavaScript bundler. It's a really common tool in the React tool chain. So once you modify that slightly, just to add a bit that Salesforce needs on top of the React namespace, as well as to make a bit place here for Quip to load in and store the fonts that you want. In other words, Salesforce Sans, if you're familiar with it. This will get loaded into your live app and bundled alongside it. Next up, you need to actually use the Lightning design system. Here, when you want to do that, you import and bundle directly from the dependency of Salesforce design system its CSS file. Secondarily, you need to load a little bit of modifications that we've built and made available to you so that this works seamlessly in a live app. On top of that, for all of the icons, and I want to give a big shout out here to Stephen James, who's here demoing Lightning design system in React. We needed to make a modification to the library that we got in 2 weeks ago and have tested and are sure it works. We need to inline the utility, all the sprites that the design system React uses. For live apps, we can't make a request across an iframe domain to load these off another server. That's a security requirement. So we needed to inline those sprites. So here what you're seeing is that we've taken the icon settings component and modified the place where it's going to look for sprites to look for a sprite in the local document. Here it's going to load like search, #search. That actually uses an SVG sprite sheet that we inline there with the utility sprite component, as you see at the bottom in the render function. Next, you want to use the components. This is why you did all the work on the previous slides. You want to embed buttons, drop-downs, all of the components you saw on the prior page, and you see it's really just as easy as importing them from the design system React namespace now. So why did we do this? The reason we did it is that we started talking to the Einstein team, and Quip, as you're about to learn, has developed a slides solution. One of the obvious things was dashboards make the most sense in slides. You're giving a presentation, you're trying to get excitement around your product, get answers to questions. Most often, and this happens within your company, we're sending slide decks to one another to get action and change. So the Einstein analytics system builds these amazing dashboards that most of the users in your company don't get a chance to see. If you can embed them in slides and send that around, and send links to people, they will go onto Quip and check them out. So the Einstein Analytics Lab app is pretty powerful. You saw a demo earlier. But we wanted to make sure that we had a good interface that looked like Salesforce. And in the dashboard picker, we wanted Salesforce's data table. So that was why we went back and made sure that Lightning Design could work in live apps. The Einstein Analytics Live app is just a good use case for a live app. You can see there's 3 components here. There's authentication, there's the dashboard picker, where we saw a list of dashboards, and then there's the dashboard itself. And so I wanted to take a step back and look at these 3 pieces and describe how they work in the live app system. The first one's the most complicated. How many of you fully understand OAuth 2? Yeah. I have been a developer for 20 years, and every couple of years, I fully understand OAuth 2, and then I go do real work, and then I come back and I realize I need to learn it again and again. Quip has made it really easy to do authentication, so I wanted to show you what that looks like. But secondarily, you do need to make changes in your Salesforce org to make these apps work. That's true of any LightningOut component. So for authentication, in Salesforce itself, there's a configuration in the setup. If you're all or how many of you are admins? Okay, so you're familiar with the setup icon. I had to learn it this time around. But in Salesforce, you can create a new connected app. This is how we make connections back to Salesforce from third-party servers. Here, we make a connected app that enables OAuth. It's really simple. When you do that, you get a client key and a client secret. You're going to need those for your live app to configure your live app. Quip's live apps have a developer console, which if you visit by quip.com/dev console, here we create an auth config in Quip where we encode the client ID and client secret. Secondarily, at the bottom, you'll see that we make a note for proxying API domains. This is what makes understanding OAuth go away from the live apps perspective. Quip has a really simple API for then making requests to authenticated services and for doing the login flow. It's important to note that Quip, because we run on mobile devices and on the desktop web, typically if you were to develop Auth just on the desktop web, you do a window open call to do the authentication flow, but that doesn't work in native apps. So it's really important to make this easy for you that Quip has an API, a system call for this to work. So once you've set this up, making an authenticated request is really easy. So for the dashboard picker, we need to make an authenticated request. We need to load the list of dashboards. And so to do that, here you can see we've done an auth call to get login already. From that, we need to get the token response. Salesforce, when you get a token response from Salesforce, it gives you two things. One is the instance URL. Because every Salesforce org is on its own special URL, we want to make sure that we're loading data from that special URL where you've authenticated. So that's what token response instance URL is there. Secondarily, when we make the .request call here, this Quip will make a proxied request that includes the authentication bearer token back to Salesforce. It can also do a refresh when that token gets expired. So this makes doing something like getting the list of dashboards really easy. 5 lines of code. Now, because we've got the design system React installed, we can feed this list directly to the data table component. This looks like really semantic markup to you. What you get back as an interface that's excellent and accessible and usable. So now we can go pick a dashboard for Einstein. Once we pick that dashboard, how hard is it to embed this inside of your Quip live app? This is really beautiful. It's interactive. It's engaging. Conveniently, LightningOut has made this trivial. 6 lines of code, once you have the dashboard ID and the access token to embed that entire interface. This opens up an entire door of possibilities for Quip live apps in the Salesforce ecosystem. So we at Quip are really excited to hear from you. What things in Salesforce do you want available to everyone within your org? I've worked at a number of startups that have used cases, that have used specific parts of Service Cloud that we want available to the engineers, but they might not live in cases. They live in GitHub and now in Quip most of the time. We want to put this stuff where our people are. So that's building a Quip live app and sort of a deep dive into what the code looks like. What's next? Importantly, the next keynote is really exciting. This is the Quip keynote. Kevin Gibbs, the founder of Quip, is going to talk about slides. He's going to talk more about Einstein analytics, and this is soon. Exciting. It's going to be really amazing, and there'll be an announcement about our party, which you should come to tomorrow night. It's going to be fun. Next, we have Quip people all over the dev forest, and particularly there's a booth right over behind us where you can go get a demo of Quip. You can try to install the Einstein Analytics app and see how it runs. You can check out all of our other live apps and learn more about Quip generally. And quip.com/dev has access to repositories, recipes, code samples, everything you need to get started to get your team working to build a live app and extend Quip to be what you need. So I'm available afterwards if any of you want to come tell me what you want to see next or learn more about Einstein or learn more about the Live Apps platform in general. And thank you very much for taking your time this morning to come to this talk. I appreciate it.